let me quickly introduce our guest for the day, Joseph. And Joseph has been like kind enough to accept us. Unfortunately, we had to do it last week, but then probably we witnessed happenings that had to push us next week. And thank you to all the people who have joined us today, in spite of all the hiccups. And luckily, we are hosting him once again. So I told him that we'll not leave you before we host you. So finally, that has happened today. And just to let you know about Joseph, he is the founder of SaaS Industry, and it is a digitally native media outlet for pretty much everything in SaaS. And they usually publish brazenly creative and intelligent article with worldwide view. I think you publish very frequently the reports. I think I'm a big fan of that, the reports which you do quite often. And if you guys haven't checked them out, please do go ahead and check them out. Joseph personally is passionate about helping those SaaS companies and which are currently transforming the world. We talk a lot about SaaS economies, and he's one of the key players who has been helping startups of all stages probably in achieving their goals today. And he's also an advisor at Growth Fluence, which is currently serving an ROI of more than 16 million in the last 12 months. And he also does guest lecture on entrepreneurship, job hacking, SaaS growth, and startup finance as well. So pretty much anything under startups and SaaS, he is the man to put your questions in today. And I have some interesting questions to ask end of the session as well. But to get to all that, let me just do the rituals of sharing my screen. And Tanoi, please help me with a smiling thumbs up once you can see my screen. Perfect. It's energy we want to see today. So with that, we will get started. Joseph, once again, thank you so much for being here today with us, Joseph.
Awesome. I mean, glad to be, joining you all. I'm happy to see all of you and great. I mean, sorry guys, we couldn't do it like last week. I mean, part of it was also me. I had emergency situations, so I'm just like calling it straight out there. So thanks so much, Lakshman, for having me again.
I think it worked out well in my favor. I finally managed to host you, which I've been looking forward to for a long time. So yeah, Joseph, I'll just jump in straight to the question. Of course, we'll be talking about writing a SaaS narrative. You and me have had conversations in the past about how important it is for companies to know their narrative today, which many people are missing. But then I want to take this conversation just to set the base for the audience who are listening as well. We want to set the base right that we are trying to take pretty much everything under SaaS, how exactly companies are formulated now, how are their operations managed pre-COVID, post-COVID, probably second wave of COVID, whatever factor which we are in, we'll try to get our feet sunk in all these areas. So saying that, my first question, and it's probably the most obvious question as well. So what exactly is a SaaS narrative, and why is it so crucial to get it right today?
Oh, great. So the whole idea is, as you like all know, uh, earlier people were very passionate about talking about product stories, and
Yeah.
and there was a whole narrative that people built around the founder, and
Yeah.
which was very successful, right? So said the founder came from such and such place, did such and such things, and then lo and behold, today, the founder is here. And so that gave a lot of thrust for entrepreneurship. And if you remember the early 2000, entrepreneurship, was the most sought thing because you started seeing a lot of success stories around, and that
Yep.
led to a lot of different things. And then it moved from the founder narrative to the product narrative. So people started celebrating products and said, hey, this product is amazing. It's got amazing features. It's got a proprietary technology and so on and so forth. But then what happened is, fast forward, if you go to any rating site like a g2.com or any of those places where they list the softwares, the challenge is in each category, there are so many of them, right? So
Yep.
back in 2009, in the whole social media management tool space itself, right, there were only about 15 companies. Fast forward today, there are more than 411, to be precise,
Yep.
companies in the same category, right, which is just
Yeah.
social media management, right? And so now the challenge is, like, you can't celebrate your product and you can't say, hey, my product is better, because everyone's saying the same story. Everyone's saying,
Exactly.
hey, my product is got a superior technology and so on and so forth. So the product narrative was very much based on value proposition. And the value proposition was more like, we are better, faster, smarter, we are secure, and so on and so forth. So there was some kind of like added advantage. But the funny thing is, fast forward to 2021, all those become default. You got to
Yeah.
have a secure platform. You got to be to take care of privacy. And these are not like good to have features. These are like must have.
Must
And
have. Yeah.
so now the narrative changes, and the whole narrative is about, hey, can you actually talk about what do you really do, and how does it really matter to me as a customer segment, specifically niche customer segment, to me specifically. So now it's moved from product to customer centric. So the narrative is
Yeah.
about the customer today. So we talk big words today. We talk about digital transformation and so on and so forth. We talk about digital maturity. We talk about industry 4.0 and all of that. But the funny part is that most of the SaaS companies, even though they're known globally,
Mhm.
they are not known in the non-SaaS space. That's the sad part. So if you go
Yeah.
to a traditional manufacturing company, and if there's a use case for SaaS, you would find it very difficult to see SaaS being adopted there. So
Yeah.
who's adopting SaaS? SaaS is adopted by SaaS. So
Exactly.
the narrative has to move away from it being product centric to customer centric. So how does a particular SaaS company, let's say a CRM, matter for salespeople in the manufacturing sector? And that's why now you have the whole rise of both the vertical and horizontal SaaS. Not just specific to a function, but also specific to an industry itself. And so that's actually taking the space. And it's about right now creating the category for yourself. If you have the money, if you really have tested it out, it's good to go and create a category out there, like how Drift has done that and so on and so forth. So the narrative right now is
Totally.
customer centricity. And so that's the SaaS narrative in a nutshell.
Perfect. I think that was well put. How it's not just about what exactly is SaaS narrative, but then how it has evolved over the years. From going from a company centric to a brand centric, product centric, and now finally we are at the customer centric mode. I think that sets the base, and you kind of cross answered some of my other questions, and you made me trigger
No,
a few more questions as well there. But
sure.
I'm just gonna note them down here and then probably save it for later. So next question I want to ask is, probably to extend on whatever you have just said, companies have moved from selling their product. Like today, it's not, people are educated already. And when you say we are selling to other SaaS companies, I don't have to go ahead and explain them what exactly a CRM is. If I'm going to sell a CRM, then they already know that. For example, if it is Vmaker, they already know that it is a screen recording tool. And I don't have to say anything more. They already know that. So companies have moved from selling this particular product and its features, etc., to selling their brand, because branding, of course, it helps you to serve in the long term. So from selling your product and its features to probably creating that overall brand ecosystem, and then we moved to whatever you just said, the customer centricity and talking about this. So all these things, when we present it to the customer, we bring this concept called storytelling. How exactly do you do all these things? It's through storytelling. And I know you have been very vocal as well. So how do you think that this has evolved over the years? How was storytelling probably in 2016, when half of LinkedIn network professionals were storytellers, to today probably where 90% of them are storytellers today? So how exactly have you seen it evolve?
Oh, great. So storytelling has, again, I mean going by the same thing that I said before, storytelling has evolved around starting from the stories about the founders and about their backgrounds, about the problems that they faced and why they wanted to solve it, which kind of like generated the kind of emotions, right? It generated the dopamine effect and all of that right in the beginning. Before moving on, the stories that are shaping today are stories which have context, but it's laced with thought leadership. Now, again,
Yep.
thought leadership is a very abused word. I mean, thanks that to everyone using it over and over again. But the whole idea of thought leadership is, what is your perspective or your core insight in solving this problem? So it's not about saying, hey, we are fast and better than others. It's about why are we fast? What makes
Yep.
us fast? Right? So it's about like sharing that thought leadership, but having people, not it's not hero centric, which means It's not personality centric around one person, but there are
Yep.
many people in the organization who are telling the same story over and over again. And that's how storytelling has changed. So now this thought leadership is owned by everyone. So it's owned by pre-sales people, it's owned by customer success people, it's owned by the founders as well, it's owned by marketers. So everyone has got a part to play in this. And they have to tell the same story, but in context to what they do and how they help the customer and further the customer. Now, the problem is these stories have to be in context, which means everyone's got different use cases. And I'm going to go back and share how these stories have to be data driven, which means these stories need to have a metric behind it, which means you need to be able to have conversions in the beginning, of the whole buyer journey. But as the customer comes in, it's all about telling the customer story to other customers in a way
Yep.
that is justified, in a way it's very effective, right? Sadly, this is not done, and it's also about one of the things is we use a lot of good terms like customer success is important and so on and so forth. But customer success only becomes important when you're able to hit a metric of, negative churn, and you're able to have high retention. And the
Yep.
stories have to like really help them now, which means they need to have their ROI fulfilled within 30 days of them adopting to your product. If they don't, remember, they can switch to some other product. And switching is so easy in SaaS, and we all know,
Totally. Yep.
right? So you have to help them in their context. Now, the challenging part is that um, marketers tell a different story, salespeople tell a different story,
Yep.
customer success people tell a different story. It's not like one meta narrative that runs
Exactly.
behind the scenes. And so storytelling at this point of time is about building the right narrative, and then going and helping them, even different use cases and contextualizing it to different use cases, but the stories remain the same, right? So that is the critical thing. So it's more about, I like the whole idea of storytelling, which has not changed over the centuries. The story is about a hero who's your customer, who comes to meet
Yep.
sensei, which is you, and they have a problem, and the sensei gives them a solution, and either it's going to result in success or lessons. So
Exactly.
that's basically Kung Fu Panda for you. So that hasn't changed. The narrative hasn't changed. The narrative remains the same, right? Over and over again, you'll see Karate Kid, and you can see the stories evolve over a period of
Yep.
time. Probably it's become more sophisticated, but the underlying plot remains the same, right? A hero
Exactly.
comes,
Yeah.
he has a problem, comes to meet us. So that's not going to change. But what changes is the use case of the hero. And so it's
Yep.
about understanding the hero and then being able to make it easy for the hero to understand. So yeah, that's where it is.
It's awesome. I love the analogy being brought there. It's all about the context which you use, and probably at the life cycle wherein the customer is. Whether you tell about your product story or your brand or your customer story to the customer, it all depends on the journey. And yep, it just at the end of the day, it's about whether you use the dumplings to train them or you use probably the sweatshirt, to
Yeah,
train them. That is where
absolutely.
the difference is. I love that. I love that, Joseph. Awesome. So I'm just gonna extend it to probably into a bigger question now. I heard this term from PayPal's sorry Paytm CEO recently stating that India's Uber is Uber and probably India's Amazon is Amazon, and but I'll make sure that India's Paytm will not be Paytm. This sorry PayPal. It will not be PayPal. He spoke about creating a new category for themselves and probably taking it to a global arena. We have seen probably a lot of SaaS companies coming out in India today, but still in the global arena, if you look at it, not everyone have cracked it. Not everyone has scaled it big. What exactly you have worked with a lot of these companies from different areas as well. So what do you think is probably the hindrance there towards a startup coming from India to scale it to a global extent? What exactly is happening there, and is there an X factor which we are missing?
I mean, it's all about people. That's it. I mean, I'll just zone it out there and narrow it and say it's all about people. So people are different in India. People are different in US. So you need to
Mm-hmm.
understand that in India, people, when they buy something, right, they want to meet, greet, handshake, and then buy,
Yeah.
right? And they want to spend time. You want to build relationship. So if you're selling to an Indian company, be it enterprise, be it SME. I mean, all of them, need to really understand you. But as you move, let's say, to the US context, which is again very different from, the European context, but the US context is a more individualized society. And so the way they process things is different, right? So typically the mistake that people make is they try to take the same sales process and they apply it there, the same marketing and sales process what they know of, and it actually doesn't work. The sad part is people think, okay, hey, it's all about putting few things in place, running few ads, and then you have, lo and behold, some people who come. If it's product led, then it's demos. If it's sales led, then it's like booking those meetings with them and taking them through the demos and so on and so forth. But the challenging part is, like, in India, people want breadth of solutions, whereas in US, people want point solutions, and they want to, like, they want to actually see your expertise and depth in what you do. Again, here the decision making in India is top down, which means for every decision a big person is involved. Whereas if you look at the buyer centers beyond India, it's very different. So there are a lot of factors that actually are there, but predominantly I think it's also about there are a few things that I've seen that Indian companies are doing really, really well, and there are a few things that I think we miss out. And the first thing I think is also about understanding whether you really have two fits. One is the product market fit. Definitely that's such an important thing. But it's also about, do you have culture fit as well, right? And there's also third fit, which I'll probably talk a little later about, which is innovation and economy fit as well. But the culture fit is so important. Like, you need to actually be able to have the right kind of the whole, channels in place and the people behind it to run it. And it's very different when it comes to doing it, beyond the borders of India. The other thing where Indian companies miss out really big is they don't take a mobile first approach. They usually go and they do a web first approach. You see a lot of Indian companies, when they release, they go web first. And interestingly, it's an architecture problem, because if you don't actually plan your APIs right in the beginning, and you go and plan your APIs a little later, then actually speaking, I keep hearing this in every pitch of every demo: our mobile version is coming soon. And which means it's not done the roadmap. Okay.
Exactly.
It's just that somebody asked them, and so they're like plugging it in, right?
It's always there in the roadmap.
It's always there in the roadmap, right? So the other thing is also about everyone actually uses these nice jargons. We are AI company. We are basically a machine learning company. But actually, instead of it making it a hype, make it a reality. So start thinking AI right from day one. Again, AI is a mystic land, la la land. It's actually, in reality, it is not. In simple terms, it's about helping, building those systems which can actually work and automate itself based on certain rules and patterns. And so if you can think of what rules and patterns work in the beginning, it works. The third problem is pricing and business model. This is where most Indian SaaS companies get it wrong. So I know of many Indian companies which keep changing pricing over and over again. And even when they do their GTM, they would segment it and try and test it live. So there are some people who are getting it at lower cost, some people are getting it at higher cost, and they want to do this cohort analysis and see, and they run experiments in a very bizarre way, which is, I think, a not good way to go about. So get your pricing right, right in the beginning. And it's also about third-party integrations and all of that as well. So I mean, people really don't think about integrations, and Indian SaaS companies really struggle with integrations. So I think these are the areas, I think, if they really think through, and also factor in people. So if you're looking at North America, it's not about like going and having a Delaware company. That's the easiest thing to do. $400 you pay and you can get a Delaware company. Yeah. So that's not the difficult part, but the difficult part is to be able to establish a sales process that is aligned to the way the market functions. So I think those are large thoughts I have around that.
Awesome. I think some of the key things, which I would take from that is, culture fit is something, which is new. Not everybody has spoken about it, towards Indian companies versus, companies abroad, as well as narrowing down to the solution. I think it kind of correlates to your previous answers as well. When you tell a story, include the context to the customer with regards to the customer you're talking about, and
Right.
that's going to help. And from what I've heard so far, I think talking based on industry is going to help us a lot. Is what I've heard. That's awesome, Joseph. Thanks for sharing that. So I'll just quickly, move to my next question now. Yep. So one, common question which we have is, this sales narrative which we talk about, and I know you just said that, it's important for your entire teammates to talk about to speak the same language, to the customer about your SaaS narrative. But one of the key questions here is, when you write your SaaS pitch, where often do you use it? One of the common cases we see it is whenever you want to go and hit a conference. Okay, let's get our elevator pitch ready, and let's probably work around it, and then keep it somewhere, and we don't even have to worry about it until next conference. Or if I'm just trying to raise funding or something, then in that case I do try and probably refine it once again, and then I try and go with it. So is this the only use case of a SaaS narrative, or do customers also listen to this? What are some of the other areas wherein we can use this as well?
So there are 5 areas where the narrative actually works. I mean, you have already mentioned a couple of them, but I'm going to expand. So the first place it works is in your customer segments and straightforward. But again, it varies from the stage you are in as a SaaS company. If you're really early stage, then you're actually making a lot of good assumptions. I'm hoping you're making good assumptions, right? Because you really don't know who your customer is. Okay, I mean, people say make an MVP based on what people want. The key question is, how do you know what people want, right? So, I mean, you can't actually go and do a survey and ask people, what do you want? And actually, people will not be able to tell you that. So that's the big challenge. So
Yep.
you have to make good assumptions and start in the beginning, and then see where it works, how it works, and stuff like that. So your customer segments are going to be varied in the early stage, but as you mature, you understand where the traction is coming from, where you have negative churn, where you have higher, higher, uh, revenue coming from, right? So which means your
Yep.
average revenue per user is pretty high in certain segment. You also are able to look at whether there's a monthly recurring revenue that is substantiated, that's coming from a certain segment, as against trickles. So all of this factor in the early stage. So the narrative has to be more about a larger meta narrative, not a specific narrative, because you still don't know what they want. But as you mature, then hey, we are actually serving this customer, so mid market, in this geography, and they are from, let's say, these 3 industries. So it's pretty easy to then narrow down and share your narrative. I'm going to also share what is the narrative, right? We keep talking about, is there
Yep.
there's no formula to it, but I'm just going to share how effectively can you do it and how companies have done it, right? I'll give you a couple of instances. But the second important kind of people are your prospective employees itself. So you're building a
Yep.
team, and they want to know what this company does. Now, the sad part is when I go and read LinkedIn descriptions, I mean, sometimes I find it very difficult to understand what does this company really do, right?
Yeah.
So make it super easy for people to understand. So your narrative has to also it has to be broken down into copy that is easy for people to understand and interact with and say, hey, you know what? Awesome, man. I mean, these guys are really cool. They're solving this problem for this industry, and they're doing this specifically. And last year they did this amazing thing. So that's how you tell a story, right? So it's your prospective employees. The third area is, of course, your investors. Now, investors are sick and tired of decks because they only have 2 questions, by the way. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
giving it out to you. I speak to a lot of investors, and there are only 2 questions. Okay, what's your present valuation? How much are you raising?
As
Okay,
simple as that.
as simple as that. And that actually tells you all the story that they want to know. It gives them all the clues, because
Yeah.
they know, are you really worth, you're not worth. and how much are you raising. So for investors, again, you need to tell different kinds of stories. Again, we'll come back to that in a bit and say it depends, I mean, on when you're raising and so on and so forth. So we can talk about it a little later. And then the fourth segment, is of course your analyst firms. Now remember, maybe your early stage and you don't have an analyst firm which is basically rooting for you, or you're not part of their network yet, but they're still scouting and looking for the next big thing out there. And so when you are able to, like, and by the way, beyond the big four, again, when it comes to analyst firms, there are many of the analyst firms. And so it's about how do you really build this narrative so that they can pick your stories and talk about your stories. And it really helps strengthen the vendor or the procurement process for you when you have to actually sell to an enterprise. It doesn't matter if you're small, because interesting thing with SaaS is that SaaS has the entry barrier for SaaS is very low when it comes to
True.
enterprises, right? And
Yeah.
the final segment where you need this narratives for partnerships. Remember, we spoke about partnerships and integrations. Hey, if
Yeah.
you don't have a good narrative, no one's going to partner with you. So have a great narrative so that people want to partner with you and say, hey, man, I mean, I love, like, what you guys are doing. And I mean, the success when people are reaching out to you and saying, hey, we do see a use case. Would you want to, like, come and share your product with us, and we can help you, further and boost sales and share our customer segment to you, right? So I think these are the 5 places where the whole narrative works. But again, it's not like narrative is not copy. I mean, a lot of people confuse narrative and copy. Copy
Yeah.
is a product that happens later. First you get your narrative right, then copy is different for different people. But once your narrative is super clear, then it's easy. So let me quickly, like, take you through that narrative very quickly, and like in couple of minutes. So the narrative
Sure. Sure.
goes
Sure.
something like this, right? Narrative is like, hey, what's the glimpse of a better tomorrow that you're building, right? You need to give a glimpse of the better tomorrow you're building. So let's say you are, a CRM. It's not about saying, hey, we are a CRM, we are better. No, it's about, hey, this is the biggest challenge that people are facing, but we want to see a world, where people can do this. And that's what we're really building. This is our mission, right? Whatever you want to call that as. And then you want to immediately, like, make it very personal to them and say that, hey, listen, this is all great, but the step number 2 is, like, there's an undeniable change in this world that's right now
Yeah.
happening. It could be COVID, it could be because of COVID, low touch economy, no touch economy, circular economy. I mean, you can name whatever you want, right? So this is undeniable change that's happening right now in this world. Okay. And that's stacking the odds against you. Step number 3, very clearly show them that these odds will create winners and losers. Okay. I mean, it's as simple as it gets. And if that's the most important step, to help people realize that, hey, this really has ramifications and consequences. Step number 4 is you need to show them how these odds is going to be, be impact, driver for their business. And that has to be very clearly, like, mentioned. And step number 5 is basically you need to empathize and say, hey, don't worry, we're doing this, we're taking care of this, we're building the better tomorrow, going back to circling back to the better tomorrow. And then your
Yeah.
step number 6 finally is you're going to talk about the trust bridges that you're building, giving them a tour of the new game. And then finally you're saying that, hey, we are the new game ourselves. Sad part is people reverse it. So they start with, hey, we're the new game. Okay,
Yeah.
come look at us, we're the next shiny object, we're awesome, we're, like, the best. And trust me, we never liked that friend in college who did that. Okay, who
Totally.
only bragged about himself, right, or herself.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's about empathizing with them and then saying, hey, we are in it, don't worry. And that's why we're solving this problem for you, and we are there for you. So that narrative has to be super clear. And then you map it out to any of these, like, customer segments, investors. It could be your analyst firms, it could be your future employees. Now we are targeting millennials and Gen Z. They want to actually change the world. I mean, I'm pretty sure that a lot of people in this room are Gen Z and millennials, and they want to change the world. They don't want to work in a lousy company which is doing AI.
Yeah.
They want to say, hey, how is this AI changing the world, man? I mean, I want to be part of that exciting company. So it's about building that narrative, and then you can take it and then you can write a whole employer branding narrative from there. I mean, you can write an employer branding narrative and then write a copy from there, but your meta narrative has to be, like, super clear. I hope that helps. and gives a kind of a direction.
Definitely. I think that's going to be super valuable. I'm just going to trim it, save this for Javin later on, to trim it and probably share this itself as a separate video. Uh, that's awesome. And one surprising thing which you just said there is, how you mentioned working in an AI company today is lousy. And, rather people are interested on how exactly is this AI impacting to the change, what we are witnessing today. And that is what exciting. And even there is the narrative, like even if people want to work in a company today, especially the Gen Z, they are more interested in what exactly I'm contributing to the changes that is happening today. And that's going to be like really interesting. Okay, before we just move on to the next question, I just have a quick shout out to all the people who are listening. Like we are halfway through. Thanks a lot for sticking to us, and we just have something to share with you as well. We do have just so Vmaker, we are organizing this webinar, and it's a screen recording tool, and it helps you to record screen and share it on the go. And you can right now purchase this for almost 95% off, and you are also getting a lifetime deal as well. And I'm just going to share this uh, link on the chat, which you can use to avail the same as well. So this is exclusively for people here, and yep, please make sure you make use of it. And yes, it goes in AppSumo, and you also have a 60-day refund guarantee there as well. So it's all up to you to go ahead and test it out. Yep. With that, we will just move on to the next question for now. Joseph, you're still with us?
Yeah, I'm very much. Yeah.
I hope I haven't bored you much.
No, absolutely not.
All right. So this is another I think I'm gonna ask this to all the people whom I host in the later days as well, because when we talk about a startup, there are like a lot of things a startup has to handle in the initial days, right? Like tons of things, because it's basically like you're creating your baby and it's just out, and you need to take care of pretty much everything. It's more like parenting today. And if you really look into it, there is your funding part, if you go through that route, and there is your product market fit, which is like inevitable. There is also hiring, and ultimately there is vitamin yum. You need to start getting in revenue as soon as possible as well. Like no matter how fancy we talk about, there are these things which a startup runs around with, and they are confused about what to focus. So what exactly do you think a startup should be focusing during their initial days, across all these chaos, or probably if you can prioritize?
So, it's pretty much like the same thing I keep saying over and over again, which is first you need to get your problem solution fit exactly. You need to nail it there. So it's again, the question is not about, it's become very sexy to hear this, that you need to solve a problem that most of them are facing and so on and so forth. And I can give you enough and more examples of companies that actually didn't do that, but they are successful.
Yep.
And they pivoted and they discovered. Okay, so that's how it is. But the whole idea is to actually be able to articulate the problem really well, whatever problem you're solving, right? So the challenge is, for an entrepreneur, every idea is awesome, and these ideas actually get birthed in showers. So
Yeah.
when they go take a shower in the morning, we all have ideas. And it's very
Yeah.
interesting. I don't know if you noticed, right? So when you take shower every
Totally.
morning, you get like amazing, brilliant ideas, light bulb moment. But the problem is that ideas don't really matter. What really matters are only two things. One is timing, and the other thing is acceptance or adoption of the idea or the solution that you're trying to build. So a lot of times the challenge that I see is that people actually have these ideas built, and they want to really pursue this. So the simple thing to do is to get your problem statement very clear. The challenging part is most of them don't get the problem statement clear. What did they get clear is, we're building this for this market, and this market has this big problem. Why? Because Gartner is saying this, or because they are saying this, or because he or she is saying this. But it's not, that's not a starting point. The starting point is to see whether that problem is something that you really empathize with, and does it make sense. The second problem is to actually see, who are you as a founder itself. So
Yep.
a lot of times, you need to be very clear about your role. Are you a developer? Are you a product guy? Or are you the sales guy? And if
Or
you're
are you
none of this,
everyone?
or are you everyone? If you're none of this, then my advice is don't start.
Yeah.
And the reason is because you can't outsource this in the beginning, early stage. A lot
Yep.
of times, what I noticed is that, and you have to be good at one of these areas. You're either going to be good sales marketing guy. I got to be a very good product guy. I got to be a very good, engineering guy who can sit and code and get this moving. If you're not one of this, then you can't attract the right other co-founders. Okay, so
Yep.
it's very very important. So before you even, it's also this whole problem founder fit as well, by the way, right in the beginning. This is the biggest mistakes that I've seen people making. It's just because you have money doesn't mean you're going to be successful. So I'm calling
True.
it straight out. Okay.
Yep.
So starting from there, then you move into seeing if what you're solving is it going to have a product market fit. What's product market fit is the adoption time to market, and how fast is the market accepting what you're building. And second, and by the way, you have a broken product. Okay, you will never have a perfect product. You're going to have a broken product because that's how it works. You got to build the engine as you're like flying the plane, and you got to keep changing the engine as you're flying the plane.
Yep.
So the whole idea is not to get the whole thing right in the beginning, but to be able to see if there is adoption. And once there is adoption, and there's a big spike in retention rate, then you're onto something. That's why your product market fit. It's not
Yep.
about product market fit is not about adoption. It's also about whether that adoption has also the element of negative churn. And if there's negative churn, then hey, you hit a gold pot, and it's good. Now it's important because it's actually correlated with funding as well. Raise funding right in the beginning only when you basically need money for a proprietary technology. Is going to cost you a
Yeah.
lot of money, right?
Totally.
So let's say you need a supercomputer, which of course you can't afford one, I mean, but there's a POC that you have, but you
Yep.
got to like get access to a big supercomputer. Then you need to like go get the investor money. But if you have a POC, proof of concept, then it's good to go and raise the money for it. But it's always good to bootstrap if you really don't need the money right in the beginning for any of this, right? Also get raise money only if you have a clear architecture and product roadmap. A lot of them don't have one, and what they have is only a nice slide, nice deck.
Yeah.
This is the TAM you're solving. This is no, I mean, that's all not needed. Okay, nobody wants that. So if you have a very clear idea and you're solving, then and you have a clear workflow, then I think it's good to like get some of the seed money, because you need to be also be able to like get some runway for you to think, plan, build, launch, and use that money for basically your market research. Use the money for getting some bit of founder salaries and tech spend and all of that. But then once you hit product market fit, right, then I think it's about looking at potential scaling, which means you're looking at which market is the best. I think this is the place I see today most of the companies really struggle with. um, there's a big crossing the chasm right from problem to product market fit, and then there's a big crossing the chasm from product market fit to looking at scale, or where
Yep.
where there's profitability and potential for you.
Yep.
So it's also about like narrowing the market, narrowing whether you're going to be enterprise, SME, who are you really, and get that very clear, play the game very clear, and then expand from there. For example, HubSpot actually didn't sell in the early days, to everyone and anyone. They really focused on SME market, and they really went full gungo on it, even though they were priced high, which means they already had a filter right in the beginning saying that only
Yep.
if you're an SME who has the money, come to us. So they said that very very clear, and then that really helped to like specify the market. But once this market was specified, then they said, okay, we can diversify for risk purposes, not for expansion revenue. For risk purposes we can expand. Then they came up with a startup program, which even today is highly successful for them. And it's brilliant because they give it to most of the accelerators and say, hey, just give it free of cost to anybody. I mean, whoever wants it, like they can use HubSpot 1 year free. Again, it's not about conversion, because the conversion percentage is extremely less. By this time, they already have the data in their hands. But it's about, again, narrative building. Probably they use a budget for branding. So maybe the attribution comes from there. So the focus is in the early stages about solving a problem worth solving, seeing as a founder who you really are and who you really not, who you are not. And don't actually, like, this is not a place for you to fill the gaps.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you can either be a baller or a batsman. Don't, I mean, trying to be all rounder, only very few people are all rounders. So don't, I mean, if you are one, fantastic. If you're not one, please don't be one. Stick to it, bring other co-founders in, and then
Exactly.
and build a product that's really good. Yeah.
Awesome. I think we have just extended. I mean, I just had the next question. As how exactly? Okay, I think there is one more. I was just about to ask you regarding the funding. That was supposed to be my next question. When should exactly a startup fund? But I actually got the answer right from you there.
Yeah.
If at all you're looking for something extraordinary or something like a potentially viable product which would cost a lot of R&D money, then yes, go for it. But make sure you've got the product roadmap and what exactly are you planning to do with the money. Make sure you got
Yeah,
those two
exactly.
questions right. Yeah.
So when you also plan for the money, I just plug this very quick thing, which is think about founder salaries. Okay, very important thing. A lot
Yeah.
of times founders, don't think about their salaries. Think about product development. What is it going to cost? Think about market research. Think about your tech stacks. How much is it going to cost for DevOps? How much is it cost for your martech, for your sales tech? All of that. Think through, plug that in. A lot of money goes into people and building culture, right? So think
Yep.
about factoring that overhead cost, and don't hire people whom you don't need. And again, startups make this big mistake of hiring people whom they don't need. And the challenging part is that they give these goodies which they not give, by the way. And I mean, actually speaking, I don't know if you realize this. Only that one day when goodies arrive, people take photo and share. After that,
Interesting.
nobody talks about the company culture.
That is
I've
actually
not
interesting.
seen the same guys talk about how good the company is. That's just dopamine, right? So you get and you open it, you're like, whoa, wow, I got a mug, man. I mean, awesome. I got this. I got but that's not how you build a culture. Culture
Yeah.
is about how you and your boss have a relationship. End of the story.
Yep.
So it's about taking time building those things up, and then your essential overheads. Like, do you need an office? You don't need an office. Thanks to pandemic, you really don't need an office at this point of time. So you
Probably.
cut that overhead. Yep. So let's answer your question. I see the question: how can startups differentiate, from the world? I mean, it's again very elementary. I'm going to go back to basics. I like first principles. I really love it because I'm a big fan of Elon Musk, and I see one of the reasons why Elon Musk is successful is because he follows elementary first principles, which I think
Mhm.
makes a lot of sense. First principles are: please have a great product. Great stories do not ever replace great products. Okay.
Yep.
So before you tell a story, you need to have a great product. A great product simply means that it works really well, it serves use cases, and it really helps people out. Okay. And it's seamless. Second thing, have a great story. And that's what we're talking about today, right? I mean,
Yep.
great product, great story. But these two, have to plug into having a great seamless sales process. So,
Yeah.
okay, you told the story, you got the people to come on your side, you got people to take action and do something. Sad part is you haven't planned. People talk big stuff. I mean, honestly, people say buyer journey. People say, hey, we sit and do personas, we map it to personas, we did this, we did that. Um, then when you actually ask them for a demo, that's where the rubber meets the road, and there's nobody who's
Yeah.
reaching out and saying, hey man, I mean, you took the demo, and I just wanted to reach out and say, well, what's your use case solved? We have a demo day for tomorrow. What's your use case? I can make our time
Yeah.
very productive. Those things never happen. So I mean when somebody comes, I just hear people saying, here's my slide deck and you have to listen to me. Okay, here, slide 1, slide 2, slide 4, and then, hey, I have a demo for you. Here, take this demo. All right, on your face, thrown at your face.
Exactly.
There's no use case. There's no contextualization. So why would you sell, to
Yeah.
someone? And then the final part is have good customer success. And customer success is like everyone talks about it. I mean, I hear it in every conference and they make it look very amazing. But the reality is customer success is really hard work. And as I said before, your customer needs to see ROI in first 30 days of them being on your platform. And if they don't see that ROI, they're going to switch. Already you made them think.
Yeah.
So, and once they already started thinking, remember they're going to switch. So the point is that the use case they should be able to solve. For example, if it's a HR tech company, which is giving people ATS, applicant tracking system, in 30 days, you should be able to help them hire 10 people. So you need to have
Yeah.
a customer success metric and say, this is a customer success metric. Like, everyone should have that. Like, for example, if it's a CRM, it's about helping them plug in like 30 leads into the CRM, by 30 days. So every day a lead. So once they have 30 days, that means the use case is they're using it. And that means that there is a daily active usage. There's a monthly active usage. And you
Yeah.
know that there's work happening. You know where they're going to lose out. You're able to help them in step by step. You can't leave it to them and say, "Ha, chalo, like you got the product now, figure it out on your own." And
I'm
I've got some amazing videos. I will show you whenever you need help. Like punch in, chat is there. It won't work. You need to like take them through the whole process. You need to have an account executive sitting with them, showing them stuff. So this is as simple as it gets. This is how you differentiate in this world, right? I mean, with whatever startup you're building. And so, I mean, it's again first principles. A lot of times people think there's an X factor out there, and that makes you like become a category king. And if you do that, then you'll earn money. And when you earn money, then you can actually get Elon Musk on Clubhouse also and have a chat and
yeah.
then and take it to the whole world as well, right? So I mean, first let's go get some money and get some investor interest in this product, get some traction, and then I think then you can actually think about planning some big games from there. So a lot of times people have, I mean, that's why I hate growth hacking. There's nothing called growth hacking in my
Yeah.
dictionary, because it worked for them, and what worked for them might not necessarily work for you. So
Exactly.
I mean, people compile this big lists and all of that. I mean, I'm going to call it out straight. So all those guys you see on LinkedIn who get 800 likes, 900 likes, I'm just calling it out, they use pods. Okay, so thanks to pods, right? So honestly, the hacks, I mean, make you believe there's a shortcut. Remember, when you're actually building something, it's systemic. There's no hack to it. It's
Yeah.
it's a system. Like you want to lose weight, it's a system. There's no hack. You can't lose your weight in just about like 5 days. I mean, if somebody's going to come and tell you that, then they're just like bluffing, right? So it's a process. What you can use in a hack is like it's like a turnaround for a day. Like you need, let's say, suddenly a boost of likes, for a certain thing. And let's say you need in first 15 days you want a big traffic to come to your site. Yeah, you can do some of these things and get that.
Yeah.
But to get something as a consistent process, as a success metric, you can't use a hack.
Exactly. Like I
So
have this line,
as
people ask me on that, and I just tell them that, it's exactly what you just said. There is no such thing called growth hacking, whereas there is proper marketing. Probably you do growth marketing and you do 20 different growth marketing experiments,
right,
and then 19 fail, one gets succeed, and that is what a growth hack is. But nobody talks about the 19 experiments which fail, what they tried and
absolutely.
they didn't work, but then one thing works, and that gets highlighted, and everybody all of a sudden wants to try that. And I
Absolutely.
mean,
So, for example, my question is, how many of you here who are marketers have tried Reddit? How many of you here have tried TikTok? How many of you have tried, Clubhouse? So, if you haven't tried it, then you don't know how it works, and you don't wait for some growth hacker to write one whole, step-by-step hack of how they did the Clubhouse, and then you go and try it. It won't work. So, you got to do your experiments, right? So, I
yeah.
mean, there are channels out there, and try it out and see like what works and what doesn't work, and then you take it from there. So yep, I mean, Lakshman, I think I took quite a bit of time, so I mean,
No, I
open to your
think it's
questions. Yep.
totally worth it. I just have one question before we close it out, Joseph. So it's about, I mean, this is probably, closing the loop, with all the conversations we have had so far. And just to cover up for people who are listening as well, we started with what exactly is a SaaS narrative, and how do you go about it? Like, where exactly do you use it, and when exactly do you use it during the initial stage, how exactly you narrowed it down, spoke about all those things, how to differentiate with your SaaS narrative. And finally, this is my last question for you. We spoke about this probably in one of your answers as well. You touched upon it a bit, wherein you spoke about outsourcing versus building your own team and not hiring people whom you don't need. And finally, there is also the culture part. Can you just give me a quick one-line summary, of hiring, your early stage startup, probably?
So, I mean, early stage hiring is the most difficult hiring because you can't write a job description. That's the funny part. I
Yeah.
mean, every time you sit down and try to write a job description, it becomes very difficult. So it's about actually knowing what you want the person for and defining very clearly jobs to be done. You use the jobs to be done framework and say, hey, in my early stage, I don't need a growth marketer. I don't need an SEO guy. I don't need all these people from, let's say, if you're trying to look at marketing, but you need to be very super clear, like, hey, I want these things to be done. And then you see if you can get somebody, like that. The challenging part that I see is most of the time, uh, people actually hire, amazing people who are amazing in some other place. The history was amazing, but once
Yep.
they get hired, they no longer are amazing. The reason is because expectations were wrongly defined, and the other side, they also joined because they saw something amazing and they said, oh wow, I mean, this is a new company and I think this is going to be a fun ride. And then they come and realize that they are really like abusing this person because this person is now made to do everything, right from, let's say, SEO to, suddenly they will say, hey, you know what, we got this brilliant idea, man, why don't you implement this? You got to also
Yeah.
take care of email automation also. And that guy's like, hey, I have done that in the past, I do have the skill set for it. But then like, yeah, do this also. Hey, you do you write blogs? Yeah, I write blogs. Look, fantastic. Do
Let's do it.
copywriting as well, right? I mean, so I mean, that's not how you do it. You're going to be like super clear, like why you're hiring, whom you're hiring. And it's also about defining what your success metrics are right in the beginning. And the success metrics in marketing are not vanity metrics. I mean, vanity metrics do make sense. I mean, even though I'm calling it vanity, they do make sense because those are social proof. Because when people go and do homework on you, they go and see, oh wow, I mean, it builds a perception saying, okay, this many number of followers are there. Okay, this must be a no company that is doing pretty well for themselves. It
Yep.
does have signals, which boost the sale, but that comes later. In the beginning, it's about how many affinity relationships are you building. So there are only 4 or 5 activities. Build a good product, connect with the right kind of people, for early sales. Early sales is about taking your phone, calling like 20 people every single day. That's it. There's nothing more to it. Like there's nothing like, or send
Yep.
50 emails every day, but 50 emails have to be personalized. You can't be
Yep.
doing mail merge. If you do mail merge, no one's going to respond to you, right? So you got to be like, hey, listen, I saw this. I like you, for what you share on this, and then I'm reaching out to you, and build a relationship first. And then you say, hey, I did an audit of your videos that you post. The CRM. I mean the kind of like stuff that you post out, and as you see that there's a affinity here, and I wanted to give me a feedback on our product. I don't want you to buy. And can you
Yep.
do that favor for me? And the guy says, hey, fantastic, I can give a feedback. And then he's a amazing product. Fantastic. Say, hey, you know what? Can I do one simple thing? Can I extend this license, this trial license for you guys for like
Yep.
like 20 days? How many guys need it? Tell me. I mean, let's get moving with this. And so it's about furthering it and saying, hey, I don't want to be selling. If you don't want it, let's not do it. Say, no, let's do it. Like, okay, great. You have a sale. So, but it's about logos in the beginning and getting these things. So your marketing has to be around it, as simple as
Yep.
it gets. The marketing is more about the founder like really sitting and hustling. I hate the word hustle, but I'm still going to use it. Which is about going and putting things out there and sweating it out and then doing it. So the marketing has to go like that. It's not about sitting and finding the right keywords and doing on full SEO, planning and then saying, oh, fantastic, we found so many broken links on Wikipedia. Let's now use this technique, and let's use that technique, the skyscraper technique that this SEO guru is talking about. No, that comes later. So first get
Yeah.
your basics extremely right. Get your first logos, plug in your first, set of people that you need. And then once you have that, because again, customer interviews is not like you go and pay user interviews. If you pay users for user interviews, you will get guys, they'll also take $20 from you. And then they will say the button could have been greener in color. and probably like that's what you're going to hear from them, right? So you want real feedback from real people. So when you go and ask for feedback, they're going to give you real feedback. Say, you know what, man, I use a product, it actually like it was a very broken experience for me, honestly. They're fantastic. I'm going to take it back to my product team and share it with them. Thanks so much. I mean, it really helps. And then, hey, when I build it good, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to ask you to try it
Yeah.
out once again and let me know like what you feel. So it's about building this kind of affinity relationships in the beginning, and also about choosing the right kind of martech, right? So again, don't be stingy, be wise. Where you need to spend money, where you need to like cut down costs. So you hire a team like that. So I just gave a use case for marketing. The same use cases for product development, the same use cases for your DevOps, the same use cases for your engineers. I mean, don't get people unnecessarily. I see people like going and buying AWS, then setting the whole thing up on AWS, and AWS gives you some credits, and they'll very quickly like lose credit. So get a good DevOps guy in the beginning, so you'll cut down your instances, so that because AWS charges you for pay per use, so you can cut down that instances right in the beginning, and you can use the credits for a lot longer. It's a good investment to make in a DevOps person. Can come right in the beginning, fix your architecture really
Yeah.
well, and it's a so think through, be smart like that when you're building your early stage team, and don't just go gung-ho about getting anybody and everybody. And so that's the big mistake. So again, people use this word. I'm going to end with this, which is also related to storytelling. People say, let's create a buzz. I don't know what that buzz means, honestly,
Yeah.
because I'm like, let's go create a buzz, let's create a splash, let the whole world know. I mean, no, the world need not know about you first. I think the people who need you should know about you, and then you can then tell the whole world about you. Yep. So that's basically like a full circle from my end. So open to any questions that others might have as well, Lakshman.
So that's awesome, Joseph. I think I would probably put this conversation the most pragmatic conversation we have had in recent days. Just let me just stop my
I'm
screen.
glad.
So,
Okay.
so I think we broke a lot of myth, and I think we've been doing it quite continuously here, in the show of late, which I'm yet to name. But I think this, we've got like a lot of valuable insights here. And if there is one thing, personally, I would take it as a, key takeaway. It would be just keep things simple. You talk
Yeah.
about a lot of things, creating a buzz, hustle, category creator, leader, differentiator, and all those words are there. But at the end, it's about getting those first 100 customers, getting your product right, and then, fixing
Absolutely.
what you have to do it in the future. I think that was like probably the biggest takeaway I've had, and I'm pretty sure people who are listening would also have multiple takeaways. So I'm just gonna pass on the baton to Tanoy now to take up the Q&A. So Tanoy, so over to you now.
Sure, man. Thank you so much, Lakshman. Now, firstly, Joseph, it was like so good. I was so engrossed with the webinar. I mean, there were so many different insights and ideas shared by you, and especially those growth hacking myths that you just
Yeah.
you completely told the truth. I mean, I don't have the right words right now. Just,
Yeah.
I wish this webinar could have continued for long, but okay, we are pressed for time. Uh, but yeah, I have a few questions coming up. So the first question is that when we talk about SaaS, there are a lot of metrics that come to our head. Like, so what's the most important metric according to you for these SaaS companies?
Well, the most important metric
Yeah.
is basically two metrics. I mean, the two sides of the coin. It's
Mhm.
basically a customer acquisition cost, and on the flip side of it is lifetime value, because these are two related metrics, and very important metric. So you want to keep your customer acquisition cost extremely low. As I see this coming from Jeff, so you want to keep this extremely low, and look at channels where you have a high ROI. Let's say you're spending $5. You want to get a lifetime value of at least $500 out of that $5. And so that's where you want to start putting your thinking into. So you want to think, hey, if I spend reaching out to people, like cold calling or cold emailing, but personalizing this and probably starting it from a social touch point, let's say on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and then I build a good relationship, and then I move it, let's say, to email sequences. I mean, and then the person is interested to take a demo, then it's amazing. So you want to actually like measure what's the customer acquisition cost, like landed, and what is your lifetime value that you're expecting from this customer. And that has to be like super clear. So your lifetime value should be minimum 1 year, 12 months of runway that you're able to get from that one, like, transaction from that one customer. So let's say you're pricing your cost of your product is, let's say, $10. So you're looking at least $120. So then the question is about every $10 you spend, let's say, imagine you should be at least able to reap about $120 out of that, if you're putting that as a customer acquisition cost. So that is the most important metric right in the beginning. And so when you're choosing your martech, also don't look at choosing a martech because people are telling you to choose a martech. Let's say go for the ones that are inexpensive and those that can do the job. Like, let's say, I don't want to name it because I don't want to be promoting products here, but there are like good free CRM tools out there. There are very good mail merge tools out there which can personalize. Again, take time to personalize, like put your Excel sheet right, so don't, scale, but do it right. And then you want to see like how you want to really scale from there. Reach out. The easiest thing to do is basically reach out to people on LinkedIn. Not in a way that is very intrusive, because I see a lot of people like being very intrusive. Like, even this today I got like 3 intrusive messages. I don't want to name them, but it's more like, hi, you're from here and we do this, do you want stuff? Like, no, I don't want stuff, so sorry. So if you want to like, spend some time and like understand and say, hey, I've been following you on this, I don't get cheesy again. Say, hey, we are a company like this and we are an early stage startup, and we want to like see if this is a good, we want to get your feedback on this, more than anything else. Or if anybody can give us feedback, I'd be more than happy to actually show this product. So you're actually creating this kind of like very high affinity conversations. And then trust me, every founder wants to help other founder if you approach them right. It's very, very simple and straightforward. And they would say, hey, you know what? Hey, I'm a little busy right now. I can put you on to this person who can probably help from my team. And so that's how you actually like move and scale. And trust me, I've been in sales, enterprise sales, for quite a bit of time in my life. And trust me, sales is all about building high affinity relationships across the globe. In India, it's a lot more. In US, it's a lot less, but relationships are still there everywhere. So, keep your customer acquisition cost lower and your lifetime value higher. And that's the first metric you want to really solve. And the other metric you want to solve is also a monthly recurring revenue, to see if it's actually growing month on month. It's very, very important to measure that.
Awesome. I really like your answer, Joseph. I really like the correlation between all the metrics that you said, like the customer acquisition cost is something that you want to do in the present, and the monthly recurring revenue that you want to do continuously, and the lifetime
and also
value
I think I like what Jeff has mentioned. Like, I hired a salesperson with hundreds of contacts. So Jeff, I think one of the things I realized is that a lot of people actually like make a lot of tall claims. So the best thing to do is to date and then marry, and not to marry anybody straight off. I know in your case you already hired this person, but you can also always move this person as a contract person, and that could really help, because you pay people based on results. So if they're good salespeople, they get paid on commissions. So they're more interested in the variable pay and not in a fixed pay. So one of the ways that you're talking to a good salesperson is when they're actually negotiating pretty hard on the variable pay. And if they're negotiating pretty hard on the variable pay, you know that you've got a good guy, and don't let go of the person, because that person really has leads. That's why they're coming to you. So it's a very simple thing to notice in the interviews, and if you do that, then I think you get. So if you already hired this person, I think you can move this person as a contract person, and you pay the person per lead, per conversion. Makes life much, much easier for them. So you save your cost as well.
Awesome. Thank you, Joseph. I hope Jeff. I hope Jeff, you've got the answers to your questions. So moving on, we have one more question for you, and in fact, 2 more questions for you, Joseph. The next question is, okay. So how do you define a startup? Like a startup and a new business. If I'm starting a new business and if I'm starting a startup, how do you differentiate them? And are there any criteria or any methods?
Okay, so a business is something that already has a prototype that's well defined.
Right.
So let's say you are starting a supermarket. So you already know it's defined. So let's say starting a new gym. Let's start a gym. It's well defined. So what you need to start a gym is like, it's not like rocket science to figure out, right? Because you know, like it's got all of it. But a startup is very closely related to entrepreneurship, wherein you are trying to evolve a business model. There are many business models. You're trying to like evolve a business model as much as you're trying to solve a problem. And that's what makes it extremely interesting. Right. So for example, AWS does, pay-per-use. Twilio does pay-per-use. But at the same time, the way Twilio does pay-per-use is very different from the way AWS does a pay-per-use. In fact, Twilio, they actually like charge a certain amount right in the beginning, okay, as a subscription, and then they do pay-per-use. And if the credits are existing, I mean, it's not used, then they roll it over to the next month. AWS doesn't do that for you. AWS is straightforward pay-per-use. So it's about trying to understand business and revenue models that actually work for your context. That's the difference between startups. So startup and the second thing is also about technology and proprietary technology. So trying to see how to solve the same problem in a whole different way, right? So that's the whole thing what a startup does. And a startup is about finding innovation. And the third thing what startup also does is to actually like create value. I mean, it's not that gyms don't create value. It's not that any of them don't create value. But the difference between gym and I mean, and the case in point is, I mean, this will be like if I had to like give a correlation, it's going to be an Indian example, like how CureFit did it. So CureFit, still aggregates gyms, but end of the day, they don't own like many gyms. Okay, they own very few gyms. So it's about kind of evolve a whole new value system, ecosystem, which is totally different, right? Which means there are creators. They're doing a creator, aggregation, which means there are guys who can come and do courses on gym. Somebody can do a Pilates class. Somebody can come and teach you a lot of different things. So they bring all of them in. And a business, a gym business that's not doing well, they do partnerships and do a takeover, partial takeover. So it's very, very interesting because like it's about evolving a new business model and then creating value in a whole different way. So it's about scale or economies of scale. Whereas if you see a traditional gym is only interested in how many people came, how many memberships we got, that's it. And how many people can I do personal training? As against, hey, can we bring Hrithik Roshan and bundle, HRX brand in it and do upsells and cross sells. So it's about actually like connecting dots which actually don't naturally connect, and then creating a value ecosystem. So that's what differentiates a startup and a business. And so you also need to be super clear. If you're a business person, fantastic, be a business person. There's a lot of money there as well. But if you're a startup person, it's about like creating a loads of value in a short amount of time. And that's the whole point.
Thank you, Joseph. We thought of answering this question because usually a lot of people have this question in their mind, that what differentiates a business and a startup. And I think, Joseph, you just nailed it. So there's one last question for you. This one is interesting, so I saved it for the last. Okay. So say you need to deliver ROI in the first 30 days. And so who will be responsible for it? Like the customer success team or the product team?
Awesome. Very good question. So everyone. So I mean, it's not again like who is the person who's going to own it, and if they don't do it, then we can find a person whom we can fire. That's not how it's going to be. But it's more about, when I say, it's not cliched when I'm saying this, because in early stage, there's actually not everything is defined, not everything is solidified. So customer success is not like solidified in a mature environment. Actually, customer success in most SaaS companies right now also heads marketing and sales. So that's how they're bringing customer success under CRO, chief revenue officer. And so they're trying to like make some kind of consolidation like that in very mature ecosystems in SaaS. But in early stage, things are not very like set in motion, or it's not very clear like this is how it's going to be. which means there's going to be a lot of hand holding. Pre-sales will pass it to sales, and sales will again pass it back to marketing and say, hey, I think this guy is not ready to buy, man. What do you guys have passed me a wrong lead? And then put this guy on the air campaign, and then they put, and so all this will happen, right? But it's about like taking the onus and saying, let's do this together. And the flip side to that is that founders have to incentivize this, and founders have to ensure that people feel motivated to do this and find skin in the game. How you do it is like probably give ESOPs to people. You can bring in a lot of different interesting things there. I'm pretty sure that everyone knows about how to motivate people, and keep, because you know what motivates you. So it's very simple. That same principles, you use it for others as well, and motivate them to take that kind of onus. And once they take onus, then they can see the ROI. But essentially the 30 days thing has to be mapped to an account executive. So the sad part is that most of an account executive is again not a new role. It could also be the founder who's an account executive. Okay, so it's not you need to hire somebody for it, but somebody should be accountable for them and say, hey, you don't need a robust system. You don't need help desk and all that. You can have WhatsApp. Tell the guy, come, this is my WhatsApp number. You have any issues, please reach out to me. I'm there for you, and we can chat and we can move this further. So it's about moving it, making them use the product. Say, hey, I haven't seen any activity from your end. Do you want me to, like, tomorrow is it a good time, to come sit with you and show you like how to do this? And I can be there, I can show you this. So it's about furthering them, moving them, motivating them. When things are broken, owning it up and saying, hey guys, sorry, product crashed, I'm so sorry, but like I'm gonna like plug this back. But you know what, since you're stuck, since you shared this with me, I'm going to give you a 3 months more, extend the trial for 3 more months for you. So it's about doing all of that. So everybody has to take ownership in this. It just can't be like one person.
Awesome. To sum it up, it's a lot about ownership and the founders finding the right way to incentivize their employees.
Incentivize it. Yes, absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Joseph, thank you so much. I'll just quickly check if we have any more questions from our panelists. I'm sorry, attendees. No, we don't have any. So
awesome.
Perfect. Yep. Thanks, Tannoy. Thanks for handling that, and thanks, Joseph, for extending the session as well. I told you that we'll try to wrap up in 45 minutes, but then I think we have had some amazing conversation that I didn't check that we've crossed 10 p.m. until we started the Q&A.
I know.
But thanks a lot, and I think people have stayed back. That's what I was surprised. I was just quickly checking it out, and people have stayed back throughout the entire conversation, which means there were some great value bombs dropped today. And thanks a lot to you for that. And yep, I really hope that I think there was one question as well. I know you should probably ask how, instead of I should be asking like what is your perspective on people. If you really look into it, he has been explaining completely about how throughout the entire conversation. But every topic which we discussed today can be a webinar by itself. Pricing strategy for SaaS itself can be a webinar.
Yeah, true.
And, but we try to cover up and extract as much information as we can from Joseph today, and get a base of his experience, which he has gained over the years. Joseph, thanks a lot for doing it, and I really hope that we do one more session, probably in a very specific topic in a detailed manner in the near future.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll love to do that. So nice connecting with you guys. I mean, please do come visit SaaSindustry.com. We bring all the news, all the latest buzz. I mean, I can use the word buzz here, okay? So on record, and come do check us out. And if you have anything you want to share with us, please feel free to reach out to us, and we would love to cover your story as well. Fantastic. So thank you so much, folks. Everyone, for people who are tuning out of India, and especially, from US and Canada, good morning, have a great day. And for those who are tuning in from India, good night, and thanks so much. Take care. See you. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Joseph. And before we close, guys, if you have any questions, you can always, Joseph, is it okay to give your email
absolutely.
ID?
Yes.
Yeah, so it is joseph@saasindustry.com. It's pretty simple, and it's easy to remember as well. So you can just drop him an email, and he'll be happy to catch up with you as well. Tannoy, you had something?
Yeah. I just a quick announcement. We also have a Slack community, so you can join it. You can be a part of our discussions and conversations, and you can get the latest updates about Vmaker. And if you like to talk about productivity and growth, then we have a Facebook community for that as well. I have shared the link of the Slack community. I'll be sharing the link for the Facebook community too. Okay. Yeah. So that's it. That was the update here.
Thanks a lot, Tanay. Thanks, Joseph,
Great.
once again.
See you guys.
And,
yes.
yep,
Thanks so
I really
much.
hope to
Yeah, you've been
catch
great
once
hosts.
again.
Yeah, both of you. Yeah, take care. See you then. Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.